on this week's episode of The Pieces.
What do you want to be when you grow up? My essay was like, when I grow up, I want to be a girl.
I definitely gravitated towards like feminine energy.
It wasn't until New York where I met my first trans woman. I was like, there's no denying this is a woman. You know what I mean?
All right, babes, it's Bimini, and we are back with a brand new episode of The Pieces. I have just had my bottom braces, so I'm getting used to and adjusting to that. So please do bear with. But a lot of you do comment on my post and say, drop the skincare regime. So today, I brought the skincare regime with me. I want to introduce you to the incredible Joelle Rotsaert. Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm good. The skin is looking gorgeous.
Thank you. I just had what was it? I had Ultra Clear recently.
Yes, Ultra Clear, which is an amazing new laser, which mimics the effects of CO2 laser, but with half the downtime. So
half the downtime, slight bit of redness that day. That was it.
Yeah.
And then we were back at it, but now it feels like lovely and glowy.
But
so
it looks gorgeous, right?
Well, yeah. Hopefully, I'm having a
Yeah.
good skin day because I've just said that in front of loads of people. But I'm sure it'll be fun. But no, I am excited to talk to you because I feel like you are such a trailblazer and you do so much for the community. And just in general, like I think what you stand for is, and your ethos is incredible. So I want to start with this question with everyone. The piece is all about the moments that shape us. Mm-hmm. So can you think of a formative moment that made you feel like the person that you are today? We go right in.
Yeah, we go right in. That's very generous, by the way, and I really appreciate that. I mean, look, as if we're talking about sort of like trans awakening, then I would say that when I was 6 or 7 years old, and this is like, I say this story to everyone, but I think it's like, this was like my like awakening, and like this thing that always stuck with me. It was such a formative moment for me. I was like in the second year of like lower school. What is it called here? Sorry.
Primary.
Oh, primary school.
Yeah.
Sorry. And we had to write an essay, and that was probably like the first time we were ever able to write an essay. It was like the last essay of the year, and we were rated on a scale of 1 to 10, and everybody had to write their essay. And a couple of weeks go by of like, the teacher going through all the essays. And one day she walks into class and she's like, okay, so I've gone through all the essays. Everybody had an amazing essay, but I want Joelle, my name was yours at the time, to come in front of the class and actually say his essay. I was like, oh my God, I was so nervous because I was in an all-boys school. And my essay was literally like, it was also like, what do you want to be when you grow up? My essay was like, when I grow up, I want to be a girl. Mm-hmm. So stupid, but like I had to like say it in front of this entire class. It's something that stuck with me because even back then, at like 7 years old, it came with so much shame.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel from that?
It was really like, I remember it so vividly. It was like, I was so scared to say it in front of an entire class of like boys. But then funnily enough, these boys had no issues with it until 2 or 3 years later when the school became mixed. And then all of a sudden, I remember like all of a sudden everybody bullying me with it. But before that, it was like no issue. Everybody like accepted me as a girl in their mind. But yeah, that's sort of like a moment that always stuck with me.
Well, I think that says a lot about conditioning as well. Because I think like kids are like, you can tell a kid something and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like gays getting married or like anything like they are accepting. It's the people that they
normal.
learn. They're like sponges.
Literally. And it like, I don't know, it was just like such a formative moment, but also like, it just felt so innocent. You know what I mean? Like this stupid little essay, but like, and actually the one that stuck with me the most is basically like a couple of years later when I started to get bullied for it. Because before that, it wasn't an issue. So that's sort of like my biggest one that was like that always stuck with me. And I was
it must have been difficult to be in an all boys school and knowing that you are a woman and
Yeah.
like being in that position, because I was in a mixed school and I was with the girls.
Yeah.
Like, I had the girls to back me up. We were playing Buffy the Vampire Slayer and like
exactly.
doing the dances. So to be with all boys, it must have been quite tough.
Yeah, it was. But like I said,
Until
the girls actually showed up, it wasn't actually weird. Like they all just accepted me as a girl, because I was just, I'm sure you were feminine as well, probably growing up. You know what I mean? Like it's not a weird thing as a child.
No.
You know, like you literally, like I would always like when I had playovers at my. Is it playovers or like when little children do like a little playover at the house?
Yeah.
I would always do like role play where I was like Princess Jasmine that needed to be saved, and then like
always
forcing all of these little boys to be like the knight or the prince or something.
They all love that though.
Yeah, exactly.
They love it now, especially.
Exactly.
I mean, I feel like I definitely gravitated towards like feminine energy, women. Like I knew all the choreo to Britney. In like playgroup, I had like the rota for when the girls could wear the purple velvet dress, because I wanted to wear the purple velvet dress. Like,
what is the purple velvet dress?
There was this gorgeous little purple velvet dress when I was like 3.
Okay.
And it was like, it was just like I just always wore it.
Yeah.
And like my mum, I was lucky. My mum was quite open and accepting about it, so that obviously helped. But I wanted to go on to, you said one of your earliest memories of beauty was shaped by your grandmother.
Yes.
Can you take us back to that? And what was it, that moment that stayed with you?
It's basically my grandmother was like this, I remember it vividly because like she had this, like my mom herself is basically, not a tomboy, but she just wouldn't place that much attention on like beauty, or like I think she had like 1 or 2 lipsticks that I would like obviously sometimes steal, and like maybe like 1 eyeshadow palette, but she wasn't like really into beauty. But my grandmother, and I spent a lot of time, because both of my parents are doctors and they spend a lot of time obviously working growing up, so I spent a lot of time with my grandma. And my grandma had this beautiful sort of like bathroom with like a full-on like vanity and like, you know what I mean? Like foundation and lipsticks and like, you know what I mean? Like she would take so much pride every morning, even though even if she would just stay at home, like spending that time to like do herself up. And it would fascinate me so much. And also like she would have this gorgeous, actually not far off from this hair, but she would have this long, gorgeous white hair, not gray, full-on white hair. And once a week she would go to the hairdresser, put it up, and it would stay for the full week. And
did she go to the hairdressers once a week?
Sorry?
Did she go to the salon once
she
a
would
week?
go to
I
the
love that. That is
once
diva.
a week, literally, and like 100 bobby pins. And would just stay for the week.
Yeah.
So
she's in, she's set.
Yeah, literally, she was set for the week. But yeah, she was just like my beauty icon growing up. Like she was just
amazing.
like
That's so nice.
and she was a seamstress, so she would always make like wedding dresses and stuff. And one of my earliest memories is just first and foremost like being in her place, wearing her high heels, standing next to her, doing my makeup, making little dresses for my puppets and stuff. Because like at home, my dad, we're now really, really close. But obviously growing up, he really wanted me to be like a man, you know what I mean? Like a boy growing up. But then the moment I arrived at my grandma's, it was like all bets were off. And I could just be who I wanted to be and just make little dresses for my Barbies and like for my puppets, and just do my makeup, wear high heels and stuff, and just like a little safe place, which was really cute.
I feel like it's so innocent as well when you're young, and like that's like what you want to do. And then I remember being ridiculed for playing with dolls, or ridiculed for dancing to Britney, and it was like, I remember people would say, because I could do the splits, that I didn't have male genitalia. They would literally say that, and I'm like 8 years old. And I was also told I was gay before I was gay. By adults. And it's and they talk about like the conversations around like homosexuality or trans people, like either being overtly sexual or like predatory. I'm like, sorry, you were telling me I was gay when I was 8. I was like, I didn't know what sex was.
Literally.
When did you first have that realization that you were like who you are today?
Oh, okay. Well,
Or who
look,
you always were, but
yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I think as a trans woman, you obviously have a couple of realizations. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, most people first come out as gay or
Yeah.
bisexual or whatever it is. Look, first one is obviously when I was like 6 or 7 with a essay. That's like the first one, and then
yeah, so that's quite like young as well to
yeah,
be.
exactly. I mean, look, at the time, obviously, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, looking back now, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But at the time, I was just being
That's just what you
you know what I
wanted,
mean?
yeah.
That's just what I
Yeah.
wanted. That's what I was like saying. But then, look, I obviously had obviously I had a coming out when I was like, I would say 15 or something, or 14, 15. When I was literally like told my environment, like, oh, I like boys. But I think everybody at that point fully expected it. And like, I mean, I don't think anybody really made, like it wasn't a surprise to anyone because I was just like so effeminate. I mean, look, in high school, there wasn't a day where I wasn't bullied.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the F slur and like, like all of these things. So I had that first. Then I moved to New York, where where I met my first trans woman. Because up until that point, also the only people that I was in contact with was drag, drag queens or just like sort of like sex working people that were like in movies or something. You know what I mean? Like these, it didn't feel like an actual real person in a way. Does that make
Totally,
sense?
yeah. I mean, they like in movies, especially. I think like certain characters are played and they fill in a role, and it's never particularly a positive one.
No, exactly. And so like over the top, and like and it wasn't until New York where I first met my first trans woman. I was like, okay, these are actually people. Then I moved to Amsterdam, and then I actually had a really close friend of mine who went through the entire process, and it's just like, there's no denying this is a woman. You know what I mean? Like just, this 16-year-old person that just like says to their parents, like, I'm a woman, and like, seeing their how it like changes their life and how much more confident, how much more they look like themselves and feel like themselves. It was like, okay, this is like, I'm not crazy for thinking this, and that's like,
that's the saddest thing I think about how the media vilifies trans people today, because I think like, it's such a small percentage, but the rate of detransition is so small, and they focus on that, and it's like you don't focus on like the 98.5% of people that are living their truth and being happy. And I've got a trans brother, and I know that saved their life.
No, literally.
So it's like people don't hear these stories.
No, 100%. I always say that. Like, I was like, there was a really long period, and it was like I was studying in Amsterdam, and I was at night wearing like full, during the day as well, like makeup and long hair. I didn't look like this, but like my version of this at the time.
Yeah.
And like, it was really confusing because for a time there was like, people would go between he, she, and like, it was obviously a bit confusing. Yeah, it wasn't until my parents just like one day flat out just randomly asked me, and I never expected them to do so. But they were like, oh, all right, what's going on here? Like, obviously we can see that you're struggling. My dad actually just flat out asked me, and I was just like, I just never expected him to ask it. And I was just like, okay. But then they're both doctors. So they were just like, okay, if you are, we will get you all the medical care that you want, that you need.
Amazing.
But yeah, we just obviously see that you're struggling, because I was at the time.
It's like it's identity. It's your identity. It's such a big part of who we are.
And it gets, probably nowadays it's even a bit more acceptable. But like back in the day, it just was like,
Yeah.
You know, you saw people just literally like, just being so uncomfortable with you and obviously me with myself. And it was just like this entire thing. And then obviously then when you go on family holidays or, with me was actually a wedding, which was the breaking points, like a family, like a friend's, like an old friend's wedding where I was forced to wear like a suit. And that was like the breaking point for me because I was doing the bride's makeup because I was doing some makeup at the time. And them being forced in a suit that like triggered something because I had lived my life at that point for a good couple of years in Amsterdam. And just like, I was able to wear what I wanted, dresses and just do my makeup and stuff and long hair. And I'm being forced in a suit. It was just
Which is just so like seen as overtly masculine, and it's like the limiting and restrictive.
Oh, it's just just being forced in that. It just triggers something. And so I remember vividly because at the middle of the wedding party, went into the hotel room, came back with a dress on, and started like dancing. And that was literally the day after. My dad was like, "Okay, so what's going on here?"
Well, that's nice. You kind of eased them in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sort of.
Well, both of them being doctors, I guess, like when that leaded to get into start with aesthetics.
Yeah.
I know when you first started early on with your transition, you experienced clinics that kind of turned you away or didn't know how to treat you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh my God. When I first was transitioning, look, I did my face surgery at this clinic called To Pass, where like all the girls, like Danny and Monroe, all know this guy who's sadly no longer with us.
Yeah,
but
I heard that. Bless him.
I actually was not. I think it was only in the second or third year that it was opening that I worked with him, and I actually I remember he was like debating on the name, and I was like, I don't think To Pass is the right name, but I was like, you do you.
Yeah.
Because
that's a whole kettle of fish, really, isn't it? Like passing.
Yeah, but it's like, you don't want that to be the outcome of your surgery. You know what I mean? Like just like nowadays, I don't think they would ever call that. Well, it's still called that, but it's also like that's the reason why I would never call my clinic something like that.
Yeah.
Look, he did a great job.
Yep.
He changed my life.
Yeah. It's God's work. I'll say it's God's work.
Yeah. No, literally. But I've had awful experience even in London. I remember I had a boyfriend at the time here in London, and I would travel back and forth like while I was transitioning, and I had to prepare for certain surgeries, and I was going to a laser clinic, and I vividly remember they were literally like, "Oh, we don't want to treat you," and I was like, "What is you can't imagine it."
Discrimination, though.
It's full on discrimination. I think at the time.
Did they give a reason?
No, they were just like, so they basically went just not the areas that you needed to treat, basically with laser hair removal. And then they were like, oh, we can't treat the rest. That's not what we do here. It was just a weird thing. I mean, look, this is like 12 or 13 years ago. And but it was a very traumatic experience because
of course.
It already comes to a lot of shame, a lot of like, you know what I mean? You feel uncomfortable in your skin. You feel like, you're a burden to everyone. And then to have things like that happen to you, it's really, really uncomfortable and really unnecessary. And that, that was one of the main reasons where I was like, okay, we just need to make the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Like a full-on safe space.
Yep.
Where people can feel, you know what I mean? Feel they're comfortable and safe. And like, it's literally like, obviously it's like it's like my life's work. You know what I mean? Like I find that so important. Like every new injector or every new practitioner or something, like I'm always like, have a good chat with them. And I'm like, this is really important, you know, like even just like affirming somebody's pronouns, even, you know what I mean? Like small things, also just like being completely comfortable with what, you know what I mean? Whatever they're treating or whatever they're lasering or something, it makes such a difference because you never want to feel like a burden.
Not at all. And I think like that's beautiful that you have taken something negative and made Injectable, which I go to, you should go to too. It is incredible. And I've obviously always felt very welcomed. I think Zayn, everyone that I've worked with, Tony is amazing. But Zayn, like he
The doll
so
maker.
good with my face.
He's the doll maker.
Yeah,
for
he is a
reason.
doll maker,
The
and
doll
he like
maker.
precision. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like literally to a T of like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, it's really good and really makes you feel comfortable.
He's got
And
such a
Housewives is on all the time.
There we go, honey. Absolutely. No, but he's got look, everybody, like for instance, Tony has like such a passion for like, and his niche
Yeah.
is trans men, and he's
Yeah.
got such a like passion for it, and also just like Jenna affirming care, and just Zayn has that vision for the dolls, like
Yep.
you know, or like just like he just always has a little vision. Sometimes I walk in the clinic, he's like, "Should we do some? Should we do some?" And I'm like,
Why
"Put
not?
it in, no, let's go." I love it.
And you made it with your sister.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually had no relationship with my sister, or not a good relationship growing up. Even when I came out as, you know, as gay or whatever, we never got really close. It was only when I came out as trans that that we really like connected. And I just was like this moment that just was so vulnerable for both of us. And I never expected her to accept it, but she
Yeah.
really did. And like after that, it's also just something like I can trust her like unconditionally. You know what I mean? Like trust her unconditionally. I want her to have the world and the best, and like just her, I think, accepting me for who I was. I will always like appreciate it. I know it's something like that would be expected, but it really meant the world to me. And it's actually really, really lovely to do this with my sister. It's obviously ups and downs, you know what I mean?
It's family.
We still, you know, but it's like, you know, we know when to let each other be, when to, you know, we also have our own niche. Like I'm marketing and business.
Yep.
She's medical, and we don't try not to step on each other's territory.
Yeah.
And like, you know, look, at the end of the day, we're 3.5 years in. And actually, I've also built her surgical business, and it works really well, you know. Sometimes, obviously, we have our squabbles and stuff, but like, you know, I love her so much. I respect her so much. I think, you know, I know she does the same for me, and yeah, I can't imagine actually doing it with anybody else.
Well, it's beautiful that you've been able to create that together,
Yeah.
especially when you started having a rocky relationship,
Yeah.
and then you living authentically
Yeah.
on that stronger relationship, and then you
For
created
sure.
Injectable, which I think my mum just went, she's not a doll, but she's a doll. She's a doll.
She's
But my
a
mum,
doll.
my mum went there. We just had some bits done. Like it's so inclusive. It's so beautiful. So definitely, if you are looking at aesthetics, this is the place to go.
Yeah.
2 clinics so far.
Well, we're opening the
Open the
third
third,
one.
yeah.
We're opening Elephant and Castle.
When are you opening it?
October.
I thought you just said this weekend. Then I was like,
No,
whoa.
no, I think that's a scoop, by the way. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
We're gonna
That's going to
go-
be
yeah.
Elephant and Castle is a great area.
Yeah. I mean, we are obviously following the gays. Let's be real.
I mean, I remember. So I went to university in Elephant and Castle
Yeah.
back when it was like old school
Rough.
Elephant and Castle.
Oh.
Like it was not how it is now.
Yeah.
Like it was like no high rises. The
Yeah.
gays weren't there. It wasn't gentrified. It was quite scary.
I've
it's
heard
like
that
changed
before.
now. Now
Yeah.
there's going to be an Injectable. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, look, it's going to be a full new sort of like outdoor shopping center. We're next to a block gym, next to Space NK, across from like this huge Marks and Spencer food hall. But it's, you know, it's
You get it all when you
yeah.
go for your shop.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be our nicest one yet.
Yep.
And we want to make this fun again. Like, you know, with every one that we open, we learn some lessons. I can tell you that. With the first ones, we made so many mistakes. But you know, then with the second, I think you've only been to Shoreditch, or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Shoreditch looks. I think it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Like I really like it. Notting Hill, it took some time to make it look nice because we just had a horrible experience with the builder and stuff. But you know, we now have our builder. We've got a great architect. You know, we know
You've
what
got to
do
find
now.
those people, right?
Yeah, and
You've got to
every
find them.
time, obviously, like after working in the space for a while, you're like, okay, this is what we could do better. This
Yeah.
is, you know, so I'm super excited.
That's amazing. Though.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
You've talked about aesthetics being tied to identity and self-expression, not just vanity.
Not just
Because I think
fancy.
some people think oh, you do this to just be vain, you get Botox for this.
Oh,
Part
wow.
of that is, I don't want my face to move. But but like it is all about identity and expression.
For sure. Look, and I think obviously first and foremost, especially with gender affirming care.
That's what I was going to say.
Look, I hear this every day and it's actually really sweet. I mean, it's obviously mostly Tony and Zayn, for instance, who like on a daily basis message me and they're like, for instance, Zayn messaged me last week and he was like, okay, this like today on a Saturday, he tweeted 3 gay guys, 1 trans man, 1 doll, 1 non-binary person. You know what I mean? It was just like it a full list of like all queer people basically that were all in a way affirming, and you know what I mean? And it was just like he says it every day, like it's just so rewarding.
It is,
because it's like you're literally changing somebody's life. I mean, Charlie Craigs. Like she recently had her lips on. Like it's actually incredible. She almost messages me on a daily basis how much she's changed their lives. And I'm like,
I mean, listen, my first meal did as well.
Right? No, I know. I mean, look, my first meal when I was like 20 or something didn't look great. But it made me feel like $1 million. You know what I mean?
I was always obsessed with that though. Like, but actually, did you? So obviously, are you a Housewives fan?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so old school Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
Adrienne Malouf's face. When we first watched it, I was like, oh my goodness, she's had so much work done.
Yeah.
Now, if I look back, I'm like, she just looks normal.
No, I have that with Heidi Montag.
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember with the Hills, I was like, and now I'm like, bitch. She looks like any doll.
Yeah, she looks like great. I was like, you're ahead of your time, bitch.
Yes,
no, like honestly, it's so tied to identity. It's so tied to that.
Yeah.
I remember like it was 2017. I first got a mill in my lips, and I was like, I am a changed person. Like this is amazing.
Exactly.
And then it wasn't until I had nose filler.
Did we have to get it removed?
I've had it removed. I've had it removed. So I had it built up over the years, and then Zayn actually removed it, and then we rebuilt. So that's good. But so then I had that, and then the biggest one for me was nose filler.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't realize that adding can take away.
Yeah. Oh,
which
my
is
God,
why
massively.
people don't see that. Like, so I had, and it was always in makeup, but it was always something I hated, and I couldn't pinpoint it too much, and it was a shadow because I had like a ridge, like it would go like in, and then so there was like this deep crevice, like from like the Homo sapien days or something. Like I didn't want that. So we filled there, and I was like, oh, I've got a little petite
it looks
nose.
perfect.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Really
just filling in there changed the game for me, and I was just like,
I wish you would have assumed almost that you had a surgical one. Like, it's really good.
Yeah. I was like, should I get a surgical? I was like, no, just keep getting non-surgical because it's like, but like,
if it's like something like that, you might as well just do a little bit of filler. You know what I mean? Like,
but I didn't realize how much it impacted my makeup. So when I was doing glam, it would create shadows that just changed my face completely. And it was like made me feel so confident. And I think at the end of the day, that is the most important part of it.
That is the most important part of it, for sure. I mean, look, that's what I started this business for, you know what I mean? Like to make people feel beautiful and confident and just, more affirmed and aligned with themselves. I mean, it sounds really stupid. And there are, obviously, on a day-to-day basis, we're not only doing that. There's people, and I just sometimes when I have Botox for like that, it's not like affirming necessarily, but we do a lot of it, especially like at our clinic. We do a lot of sort of like affirming treatments that really like impact somebody's confidence, daily life, like just, the way they hold themselves. You can often like see it in before and after pictures after a couple of weeks, just the sparkle in the eyes. It's
so true. And I think like anyone that is like, that slates it, like, I mean, people shouldn't judge other people anyway. Yeah. But like, it's no different to getting your hair dyed. If you dye your hair, it's no different to getting like, I don't know, like anything that makes you feel good, you should never judge another person for it.
Exactly.
And I think like what you do with Injectable is that. It is affirming. It is all about confidence and not self-improvement, but just assurance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But like on that note, like where people, where you compare it to like a hairdresser's, like I would in the beginning get my lips on, even like in Harley Street. But I mean, Harley Street is like everybody can rent a room.
Exactly.
Like you don't need to be like a really good injector. Literally anybody can buy. If you can rent a room, you can just treat there. So it's not like a stamp of like, you know what I mean, like a quality, but the service that you would get there is just like, or the experience would be so ridiculous. You would pay big bucks, and then you would walk in there. While in the waiting room, you're going to be slapped on numbing cream, sitting there in a full waiting room with people that go to like gynecologists and orthopedic surgeons and stuff, and they're all looking at you like, what's happening? And then you go have the treatments, get pushed outside, still with a bleeding lip.
Yeah.
Like there's nowhere to go, like, you know, to touch up your makeup or whatever. And then you're standing on the street in Harley with your bleeding lip and you have to go to work or in a tube and stuff. It just felt like an awful experience. I was like, okay, I just want to change that entire thing. First and foremost, let's take the shame of injectables out of it. Like, let's put it on the high street, create a gorgeous concept around it, a nice brand that you're not like ashamed of. And create a really nice experience around it. You know, we have after treatment the LED room where people can go. Yeah, it you know, it really accelerates healing. So the bleeding stops quicker. Afterwards, people can go apply some makeup, and people often just literally come between lunch, you know, in their lunch break, and then after an hour they leave looking like nothing really happened.
Yeah. You do skin boosters, like do you make them yourself? Like, don't you make your own like kind of?
Yeah, we do our own sort of like mixes and stuff.
Maybe this is a GHKCU.
Oh, copper peptides.
Yes, copper
exactly.
peptides.
Yeah.
So I've just got on the copper peptides.
Oh,
just started
lovely.
That. Yes.
Okay, cool.
But I'm excited because I feel like that's collagen production. And
yeah, exactly.
I think that you can do that on the skin too, right? Like,
we do it as part of our DNA glow code.
Yeah.
The only thing is obviously with regards to sort of like injecting it at the moment in the body, it's just not CE marked. So we, you know, it's obviously
for research purposes.
It's all research purposes. So it's a bit, but you know, look, I think there's a lot of really interesting science around that.
Totally.
I've also tried it myself, and like I really, really enjoyed it. Just obviously to offer it in clinic, we always want to be compliant and stuff.
Of course,
but sort of like topical and stuff, copper peptides have also like a really long, sort of like list of benefits and stuff. So
what is it like? Because what age is it we start decreasing our collagen production? 28, right?
So after 30, they say your collagen production obviously decreases by X percentage. And that, you know, but I think it's really, really important also to note. For instance, people always ask me like, what's the best age to start Botox? And I'm like, I've seen people that are 21 that have horrible lines.
I was 25.
Yeah, that have horrible lines. But I've seen people that are like 50 and then have not a single crease. So it's like, you know, it's really, really hard to say because obviously genetics,
totally.
Lifestyle, all these things. Yeah, exactly.
It depends on what you want and what you go for. Yeah. And obviously I think some people might have the idea that Botox is just going to freeze you. Yeah. But you can get baby Botox. You can get the Botox where you still get movement.
Look, but if you, you know, a lot of my friends, and they still want to look really masculine, like cis men, I always am like, go light with the Botox. You know, if you want to still look masculine, like you know,
exactly.
I think don't freeze everything because you start to look. I don't like that, and like, but you know, that's also personal preference.
A friend of mine didn't want to get Botox because, like, whenever he was like doing dirty things on his knees and like looking up, there was like an expression like he couldn't frown, he wouldn't be able to frown and do that little like ooh eyes. And I was like, I do that still. My face doesn't move. But.
No, exactly. But if you want to look sort of like traditionally handsome, like David Gandy handsome, you want to have like something. You know what I mean?
He's got work.
You don't want to look like you know, snatched like
you don't want to be. So Transsthetical.
Yeah.
Is the latest project.
Yes.
And that's trained in the wider aesthetics industry to provide better care for trans patients, which I think is so important. Can you just tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, no, of course. Look, I'm looking to relaunch Transsthetical, and I'm basically creating like pitch decks and stuff to actually do fundraising and stuff. And my idea with Transsthetical is to have its own separate fund. So I want Transsthetical to have Transsthetical and then a Transsthetical fund next to it,
Yep.
where a percentage of injectable proceeds will go directly into that fund. All proceeds from Transsthetical will go directly into the fund. Like all the profits from Transsthetical will go into the fund. I also want to do some fundraising so we can actually have a Transsthetical own location.
Amazing.
And where we're able to offer not just non-surgical laser hair removal electrolysis, but also surgical.
Yeah.
Like literally all services. I'm talking to like Anne Healthcare, and like, where we're also able to offer hormones, but almost like a 2-pass clinic in London for the trans community, because it's not here at the moment.
No.
So a one-stop shop. But I just want to launch it properly this time and like really, really like launch it well and have its own, sort of location, all services. And look, I just want to make them as affordable as possible.
I mean, I think that's amazing. I think it's so necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to help in any way that I can get involved, of course.
Yeah.
But as someone that's like quite highly visible as a trans woman in an industry that isn't built for trans people, what does that visibility, has that cost you, or how does that make you feel? Do you feel empowered? I feel it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, it makes me feel very empowered. But also, like, I have to say, I've actually in general been quite surprised in a good way about the sort of like not impact, but also the feedback. Like I did a really gorgeous project with Galderma last year, where we literally did 2 transformations on like 1 trans woman, 1 trans man. And I was obviously like expecting, to have like some negative comments and stuff, but like I have, until this day, I haven't actually seen like a single bad comment, because it's just a beautiful story. Do you know what I mean?
We
like
need more of that.
Like, but I think the way it was like visualized and stuff by a friend of mine, and like it's just like you can't deny that's like a beautiful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so much beauty in like affirming somebody's gender, and like you can see it as well, like after treatment, then they look just so much like happier, and like after we filmed it a couple of weeks after treatment, they were like, even going to the supermarket, I feel so much more confident and stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it's about.
What it's about, honestly. That's like,
and if people are like against that, that says more about them than it does about trans person.
Yeah, but look, I'm not gonna lie, and I've also, there's sometimes moments where I'm like, a company or something says like no to me, and I'm always like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't help, because like I did an amazing pitch and I'm like, I got this, and then there's like this one person that just like says like no, and I'm always like, I wonder, you know what I mean? You can't help but wonder. But look, I'm a very positive person. I believe in the good in people. So I'm always like, you know what?
One door closes, another opens.
Exactly.
You keep
know what
going.
I mean? It happens. Everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. And timing is everything.
Yeah. And it means also that we have got a lot of work to do. But look, I think especially in this industry, there's a lot of doctors, a lot of medical people and stuff. The response, and like even like peers and stuff that have like messaged me and been like, I think you're doing amazing stuff, which is incredible. It has been incredible.
It's affirming for you as well.
Very much so.
Last question we end on is, where do you find your power?
Where do I find my power? Well, I think it's indeed in like getting the feedback from like, patients and stuff, like how this impacts on people's life, just like that life-changing elements that just makes me feel really not powerful in like a way, but you know what I mean? Like it makes
just like proud.
Yeah, it makes me feel really, really proud. And also like, we're not just like a random aesthetic clinic. We're actually like you know what I mean? Like changing people's life. And that obviously makes me feel incredible. And I think also just creating a really nice team. Like I know I've got my faults as a CEO and a founder for sure. But I think, I really like to get a close-knit team and like talk to everyone and have reviews and like, you know what I mean? Like just create a nice working environment,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, feedback then from my practitioners or patients, or for instance, being able to employ trans women or, you know, trans people at
Exactly.
reception or at a company in general makes me feel, you know, makes
Yeah.
me feel not just powerful in like a weird way, but just like makes me feel really,
Just,
really
like,
good about
makes you
myself,
feel like,
confidence.
Good.
So like we're doing something good here.
And you
So,
totally are. Thank you so
thanks
much
so
for
much,
joining
my
me on the
love.
pieces. Injectable, check it out. It is incredible and
Period.
doing incredible work. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Joelle,
my
for
love.
joining me.
Oh, thank you.